Hi, students, and welcome to the Chapter 3 recap for this week. We are looking at the topic of words. The first thing in this chapter is they spend a lot of time talking about diction. And diction refers to the choice of words and style of expression that an author makes and uses in a work of literature. And we often alter our diction depending on what situation we are in. We do this naturally when we are talking. You wouldn't address a stranger the same way that you would a good friend. You wouldn't address your boss in the same way as you would a child. So, those are examples of diction. It is just how we alter the language and the words that we're using. For example, you could say, "Could you be so kind as to pass the milk?" Or you could say, "Give me that." You can see that the tone in the diction there is different, the choice of words. And when you alter the choice of your words, it gives a different meaning. So poets do this quite a bit. You can see the other two examples there. I regret to inform you that that is not the case versus "you're wrong." Again, the choice of words sends a different message. Or "I'm a bit upset" versus "I'm so pissed off." When we're talking about diction and choosing our words, we have an option to choose concrete words, what we can immediately perceive with our senses, or abstract words. Those are ideas or concepts. And you can see some examples there of concrete things versus abstract concepts. You will this week be doing a poem focusing on abstract concepts. So if you need some more explanation of this, refer back to your textbook. One thing that we see a lot, especially in handbooks that we use, grammar handbooks or language handbooks, are levels of diction. And these are words and phrases ranked in ascending order of formality. So you will see in this week's reading that there are different levels of formality in the poems that we're reading. We start at the end with vulgate. That is speech not much affected by schooling. So those poems are considered the least formal. Then we have colloquial, the casual conversation or informal writing of literate people. We move to general English, most literate speech and writing, more studied than colloquial but not pretentious. And then last but not least, we have the formal English, the impersonal language of educated persons. Now these levels of diction there's no like scientific basis that this is an accurate way to determine the education of people or how well they speak, but it often helps us classify different types of poetry, and that is the only reason, in my opinion, that it is used. Dialect is something else that they speak about in chapter 3. And dialect is a particular variety of language spoken by an identifiable regional group or social class of persons. You can probably think in your head of different dialects you've heard, specifically in places around the US. If you're from the South or if you're from the New York area or the West, people speak differently. So, dialect poems try to capture this difference. They try to capture the freshness and authenticity of the language spoken in the immediate locale. And there are some examples listed below for you there. Last but not least, allusion. This is another topic that you're going to be focusing on this week with one of your assignments. So, allusion is a literary device that makes a very quick reference to a person, play, thing, event from history, or another piece of literature or text. Allusions are brief mentions that do not receive much explanation from the writer. You will see examples of this in chapter 3. But some examples are "Don't act like a Romeo in front of her." So this is a reference to Shakespeare's Romeo, which obviously is the love of Juliet in the play Romeo and Juliet. Another example, "This place is like a Garden of Eden." This is a biblical allusion from the first book of the Bible, which is Genesis. And then the last example, guess who is the Newton of our school? Newton obviously is a famous scientist, and so in this example, they're referring to someone being a genius. So you can see an allusion is just a quick reference to a person. Keep this in mind as you're working on your poetry for this week. That concludes this week's recap.